live from New York, it's Cinnamon Toast Crunch Engineer now. It's live from New York, it's Ask an Engineer.
I love it when I have chips inside my chips.
Yeah.
It's me, Lady Ada.
Free shrimps inside.
Yum, delicious. Making me laugh. Hello, everybody. It's me, Lady Ada. It's me, Mr. Lady Ada, broadcasting live from downtown Manhattan, where we have our Adafruit headquarters. We do all of our designing, manufacturing, and apparently shrimp toasting. We've got an exciting show for you tonight. 1 hour of the latest and greatest in maker, hacker, engineering news. Gonna kick it right off because I can just tell by looking at the display.
We got a lot of show this
stuffed
week.
show,
Yeah.
Stuffed full of goodies, not shrimp tails. Let's kick it off. What's on tonight's show?
On tonight's show, we're going to be talking about shipping safe and smart. Our entire team thanks you here at Adafruit. Here's some pre-COVID photos. I can't wait to take a photo like these again very soon. We hope. Thanks for placing your orders, and please continue to place your orders. It supports us. One of the only, if not only, women-owned manufacturing companies in the USA and New York for sure. Show and tell people around the world showing and sharing their projects. Later we'll talk about this epic show and tell. There's like 15 people on it.
There's so many
There
people.
is a lot of projects. We'll talk about that and more. Time travel, look around the world of makers, hackers, artists, engineers, current news, and more. Help wanted, jobs.adafruit.com is where you can post your skills, or if your company posts a job. We have a couple that we'll highlight this week. Python and hardware news, a couple things in the news, and also some interesting trends we're seeing. More Python on hardware. We'll talk about that. New York City factory footage from Adafruit. We do every single week. You can see all things that we make on the factory floor. 3D printing, we have a cool video from Noah and Pedro of RP 2040 Feather, and then a really neat speed up from Dune, which everyone likes. It's a prerequisite for watching this show. DigiKey and Adafruit present by an MPI. This week we're going to be looking at some parts from Molex. We have some new products. We get some top secret. We're going to answer your questions. We do that on Discord, adafruit.it/Discord, where we have 28,000, but we're going to be up to 30,000 soon. I think we went from like 29 to 30, or I didn't get the latest graphic. And either way, I know we're coming up to 30 soon because Kenny was talking to me about the art that we're going to do for it. All that and more on, you guessed it, Ask an Engineer.
Yay!
All right, so let's first talk about what's happening. We are shipping safe and smart. So what does that mean?
Yes.
We follow all our protocols to keep our team safe. We're still not through this yet. So some of our team who's been eligible has gotten vaccinated.
Yay.
We're in New York. So right now it's 50 and up. There's teachers. There's essential workers that are public facing. We are not in the category of essential workers, even though we're essential workers.
Manufacturing doesn't count.
Because we're manufacturing, and also the construction industry.
Yeah.
They're also like, hey, but we're all going to wait our turn. We're all going to continue to mask up and be as safe and smart as possible. Keep our team safe. And all of our teams wear masks and gloves, and we do daily temperature. You name it, we do it every single day. And we also put in a free mask for any order over $1 in the USA. We've been doing this we're going to do it for 100 days. We're already past, I think, the halfway mark.
Yeah.
So we only have...
Because it was January 20th, so it's now 6 days in. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit over halfway there.
And we also have other freebies that we do when you place an order.
Yes, I'll tell you all about them. $99 or more, you get a free PermaProto half-size breadboard. $149 or more, you get a free Stemma QT board. We have a range of about like 20 or 30 different boards. You'll get one that's in stock from that range. You'll get a different one each time. If you make an account, we'll make sure that you don't get the same one twice. If you don't, you're just going to get a random one. $199 or more, you get free UPS ground shipping. And $299 or more, you get a free Circuit Playground Express, or all-in-one development board that has sensors and buttons and LEDs all built into it. It's a great way to learn programming and making without any extra tools required. Just plug in a USB cable. You could be coding in MakeCode or CircuitPython or Arduino in under 10 minutes.
Okay. Next up, show and tell people around the world, showing and sharing their projects. It was a gigantic show and tell. We are alternating hosts from Adafruit. So
Yes.
This week it was Lady Ada and I.
Me.
Last week it was Noah and Pedro. Next week coming up is going to be JP.
Yeah.
So show your projects. Doesn't matter which one you show up at. And then some folks are showing projects in different states of doneness.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's also really cool too, because then you can look back and see the project from the beginning. So who was on the show until this week and what to
Okay,
share?
we had so many people. We started off with Kevin, who's working with his daughter on making an orrery, which is like a thing that shows the planets and moon and sun and etc. moving around each other, using some servos and an RP2040 feather. So hopefully that project it'll be a good science fair project or a science class project. Erin Firepixie came by with an LED snowboard that she's building. So she's going to go snowboarding and she's going to be lit up, and she's got a sensor that's on the feather that's driving the neopixels that knows which way she's turning. So like maybe those sides of the LEDs will light up. Melissa came by with an Apple IIc. She's restoring, and also a CRT. Like a really cute little CRT that like pops on top of the Apple IIc. Noah and Pedro showed off their feather demo. They have all these Lego compatible brick add-ons for our various stemma boards and feather boards, so you can make little arrangements and plug them into Lego. They love Lego. And Scott showed off his SPI flash collection. He's got like one of every flash, and he's going to be using that to create a database of all the different QSPI and SPI non-volatile memory chips, so we can have like CircuitPython and Arduino and all the other software we use that talks to SPI flash chips. Each one is just a little bit different in slightly different ways, and if you need to know which one you're talking to make sure that you set the right bits and all that good stuff. It's required for the RP2040. It's also required for CircuitPython, so it's part of the way microcontrollers are these days. Your flash is external. You need to know how to talk to it. Liz is still working on her Sailor Moon star locket. She 3D printed a case. It looks very cute. She traced out the anime cell to make the 3D printed model. Alex made a ESP8266 programming adapter. If you have these little like ESP01 modules, she made it into an earring, so you can wear it at all times. And it's got these like buttons, and it looks kind of like a Ouija board thing. Very cool, very goth after dark PCB design. Sai made a Pico Raspberry Pi board to cellular M2 adapter, and also added SemaQT so you can do cellular communications with an RP2040. Ron made a home sensor system with an ESP feather, some sensors in the e-ink display. 2231 Puppy made a carbot that is controlled by an Alexa, and you tell her where you want to go, and it drives this little mini car. Joey is working on the Pi-Quarter, made an air quality app using the Pi-Quarter CircuitPython powered sharp memory display like handheld device. Ariel is working on a college car project and is in charge of the strain gauge data acquisition system and got the strain gauge working. Congratulations. Those are like microvolts. They're not easy to deal with, but Ariel got them working. Dan has been designing more and more PCBs, a badge art project that looks like the Perseverance bot, an Ohm Parade digital resistor, like a resistor that can be switched between multiple values using like R2R ladder. Mark is still working on the NeoPixel numbers for his house so that delivery people can find his house in the dark. And David figured out a hack where you can plug in old I2C sensors onto existing StemmaQT boards to make little StemmaQT like stacks of boards. Cute idea.
All right, and that's Show and Tell. We do that every single Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. It's part of our Adafruit live series of shows. You're watching this right now, Ask an Engineer APM.
Yes.
Show and Tell 7:30. We just talked about that. Those are our shows for Wednesdays that we do, in addition to 3D Hangouts with Noah and Pedro. On Sundays, we do Desk of Lady Ada. On Sunday of this week, Lady Ada, we showed a few things.
Okay, I got RP2040 stuff's happening, so I actually got the Cutie Pie going and working. So that was good. We got the tester working as well. I showed we made some videos with the RP2040 tester we made. We also got the rotary Trinky going. Maybe I'll bring it down. I'll show it on. It's not out yet. Don't ask. And what else did we show off? We showed off some more mechanical keyboard stuff.
IMX chips.
Oh, IMX things that we're working on. Yeah, basically starting to get some older projects up and running again.
Yeah. And then we had the Great Search.
Where in the world is that part I need? The Great Search with DigiKey.
And on the Great Search, where Lady Ada uses all of her engineering powers, teamed up with DigiKey to
Typing
use
powers,
the
typing
DigiKey
powers.
site to search for
Rotary
the
encoders.
component you need, because there's millions, probably if not billions and billions of parts.
My favorite thing about the Great Search is when I search for something, I'll also tell you all the mistakes that I've made, that you could try to avoid making those mistakes. So, for example, did you know that rotary encoders come with 2 different knob type ends, and they're completely incompatible? I found out the hard way. Why don't you learn from my mistakes,
Yeah.
so you don't have to order stuff and then return it, or have to deal with a mixed batch of potentiometer knobs or rotary encoder knobs.
Yeah, the Great Search series, you should just watch all of them if you ever do any type of parts purchasing. You'll not only save time, but save money. And we show all the mistakes and more, because that's the best way to learn, is see sometimes other mistakes, not just successes, but you get to save time, because it's like, oh, someone else did all that mistaken for me.
Yeah.
So now I can do all the searching.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad thing if you make a mistake, but like if you can avoid it, it just saves you time.
Yeah. Also, no one should feel bad if they can't figure it out, because
Also, you can see I make mistakes too.
yeah, and so I think that's important that we show that. All right, so on Tuesdays we do JP's product pick of the week, where we broadcast live from the product page, and this week was the VC NL4040 proximity and lux sensor, and here is a recap.
It's the VC-NL4040. It's a proximity and lux sensor in STEMMA QT format. If you look here at the display, when I get my finger a little closer, I've got my little smiley face winking there. This little sensor does a pretty great job tracking whether you've kind of added that little fleshy mass of my eyelid coming down. I'm going to just use my blink control. I'm going to use that to trigger the synth. My product pick of the week this week, it is the VC-NL4040. It is a proximity and light sensor, and I'm going to go ahead and place that on my STEMMA QT board of awesomeness.
Okay, on Thursday there is JP's workshop, and here is a little recap of what was on last week's show and potentially a preview of what's on this week's show. Okay, so tune in tomorrow on JP's workshop, and then also Scott is doing a deep dive tomorrow. So tomorrow there's 2 shows.
I know.
Lucky y'all. You get 2 shows.
Double the show.
All right, time travel. I'm going to start it off with some terrible news, terrible things that are going on. So last week on Wednesday, we were just getting some of the information because of the shootings in Atlanta. And, Adafruit has customers, community, friends, and team members in every location where there's been a shooting. So last week, we wanted to say, our thoughts are with the folks in Atlanta. And there wasn't all the information or ways that people can help. One thing that we try to avoid as a company is just to put up a hashtag and say, okay, that's it. We try to find ways to be helpful. So we talked to our team, made sure our team, the folks that we have in the Atlanta area was okay. Figured out, was there fundraisers that are for sure part of the families. It's one of the things now that GoFundMe, this was one example. These were definitely the family members. Sometimes when these things happen, you don't know. You don't know how to help. And so we have a blog post on Adafruit. And from there, you can see the resources that our team put together and then some of the ones that our community sent us. So, that was last week. This week, Sure enough, so Colorado, and we all have friends, family, coworkers, community members, and unfortunately, this is the news. 10 were killed in Colorado. The information is still coming out, so we'll do a blog post or we'll get the word out into our community about ways you can help. We have a team member that's in Colorado. They're okay. That we just had a meeting yesterday. Like, please let us know what's helpful on the ground for people elsewhere, what they can do. And the bigger conversation that always comes up is like, well, this is 2 weeks in a row. The guns were purchased in a pretty short period of time, and guns were purchased in or out of state. So there's always debate about gun control. But the only thing I think that we can do, because we're an electronics company. For us, that's almost unsolvable,
Yeah.
gun reform. But one of the things that we can all do is, if you know someone who's going through some tough times, they're acting different, they seem like they might do something, that's where friends and family can actually do something. You can say, hey, like, let's get you some help. I don't know any other way to solve this right now with the tools that we have.
We have no.
So, there's...
I mean, it's weird because country's been almost locked down for a year, and so this is kind of starting to we're starting to get more shootings again.
So, I think finding a way for people to be solution oriented on solving this, because every single week now you see these names, and we all know someone somewhere, and we're all just like hoping we don't see someone we know, but those are all real people that those lives are devastated, those families are devastated. So, don't have a solution for now. We're an electronics company, but I can say the thing that we can do is if you see or know someone who's going through something, that's the first and best way probably to stop it. That's all you can do for now. So hopefully every Wednesday we're not doing this, but we'll get the information out the best we can using our platforms. That's what we're going to always do. And, the only thing we won't do is just like hashtag, we're here. We want to make sure that we're useful with anything that we put out there. Okay, so switching gears completely onto good news in the time travel world. Arduino Day official is March 27th. Tune in.
That's this weekend.
11 a.m. on Saturday, Eastern Time, 4 p.m. I guess CDT time, and you can see the annual Arduino Day event. We'll be watching, do a couple blog posts or whatever. We already have a blog post about this event, and it's another year. They are 16 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
16 altogether.
From 2005. I remember 2005. It was a big year. Big year for electronics.
Yeah. Okay. AdaBox, we are full, but you can sign up when we run the first round of AdaBoxes. There's folks that move or their credit card, they switched up, or there's openings afterwards. Put your name on adabox.com. There's a little thing to get notified when we have AdaBoxes ready to go, and you can purchase them. They'll be shipping out in April-ish. Just keep in mind, there is a worldwide chip shortage. You're going to hear about this every day forever until it's over. So just be aware everything is starting to come back, but coming back is not exactly the way you think. It's not just a switch that's flipped. It's
not like when we ran the
global supply
capacitors.
chain.
It's like, you can't get capacitors. You always can't change capacitor values. This is tough. This is like, there's only one company that makes a chip, and then they don't have any chips. I'm now getting 1 year lead time for parts.
So anyhow.
1 year's tough.
All right, other bits of time travel. Phil B is doing an excellent series of videos. Just posted up this one. This is about Protomatter, and I'll let Phil take it away.
Here is LED matrix tiling working in the Arduino Protomatter library. This is when you have multiple LED matrices and you link them all together to work as a single big matrix. We've had this in CircuitPython for a while, but it's there in the Arduino library as well. And you can see on the back here, this is being driven by a matrix portal, and then we have 4 matrices, 0, 1, 2, and 3, all linked together. And when you have this many pixels, you can't power it off USB anymore. So I've got a big 5 volt 10 amp supply, so there's lots of power for all those LEDs. And this is the in the Protomatter Arduino library, there's an animated GIF example. I just had to change some arguments to tell it I've got these four matrices here. Also, I don't even have a big enough piece of this LED acrylic, but if I did, I'll have to order one. It would look amazing on here.
All right, next up, we have a new series of short videos, and it's part of Colin's Lab. We're calling these Colin Lab Shorts. And sorry, Colin's Lab notes. They're short, but they're the notes.
Colin's lab short sounds like something you wear in the lab when it's like really hot out.
There you go.
Hey, this
Yeah,
my
they're short videos, and these are
Short
Colin
videos.
Labs notes. And I'm going to play these back to back. They're 1 minute each. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of these.
Yeah.
And these are across all of our social media platforms, including some of the newer ones like TikTok, where there's a community of people who like to learn, and the constraints actually make it a lot of fun. Because you have a minute, and you have
Yeah.
to do as much as you can in that minute within these constraints. And it's telling a story each time. So we're going to play these, and we'll see on the other side.
Solder wick is great at removing excess solder. It's a little more delicate than a pump, which makes it perfect for surface mount components, like these bridged IC pins. Solder flows onto heated surfaces, so when the wick is heated and pressed against the board, it will melt and then soak up the excess solder. First, make sure you unspool plenty of wick to work with. It will get very hot, so hold it with a pair of needle nose pliers and place it over the area of solder you want to remove. Thoroughly heat the target area using your iron by gently pressing the side of the iron's tip into the wick for a few seconds. Then remove the hot wick using your pliers. After the braid cools, cut off and dispose of the used section. Like a desoldering pump, adding more solder can help keep the area hot longer, allowing it to flow easier. Above all, be patient and make sure you're heating thoroughly. An LED's lens will often match the color of the light it emits, but that lens isn't what gives the LED its color. An LED's color is determined by the chemical composition of its internal semiconductor. Red and infrared LEDs often use aluminum gallium arsenide. Yellow and green use gallium phosphide, and blue can be created from indium gallium nitride. Color is created by light traveling at different wavelengths, and creating these wavelengths requires differing amounts of energy, or voltage. Typically, red LEDs have a forward voltage of about 1.7, yellow 2.1 volts, green 2.2 volts, and blue and white LEDs operate at around 3.5 volts. So even if you don't have access to an LED's datasheet, you can make an educated guess about its forward voltage. Desoldering can be a bit of a challenge depending on the board and components you're working with, but for through-hole parts like these mechanical key switches, a desoldering pump makes things pretty easy. First, prime the pump so it's ready to go. Then heat the target joint with a soldering iron briefly. When you see the solder liquefy, quickly remove the iron from the joint. Place the pump tip over the joint, ensuring it has a good seal, and then press the button. Keep in mind that all of this is one swift action, so the pump can suck up the solder while it's still in a fluid state. Like so. Voila. If the solder's not coming off, try adding a bit more solder to the joint. It may be counterintuitive, but this will help the solder retain heat and stay fluid a bit longer, improving the pump's chance at success. Let's install CircuitPython on this Raspberry Pi Pico and blink its LED. First, download CircuitPython for Pico from circuitpython.org. Make sure Pico is disconnected from USB, then hold down the boot select button and plug in USB, while continuing to hold the boot select button until the RPI-RP2 drive appears on your computer. Copy the UF2 file you downloaded onto that drive. The drive will unmount and a new drive named CircuitPy will appear. Your Pico is now running CircuitPython. Download and install the Mu editor here. Open up Mu, it'll automatically start with a blank file. In that blank file, type the following code. Save the code to the CircuitPy drive as code.py and overwrite any pre-existing code.py file. And with that, we just made Pico blink.
All right, and we release these around like 4 or 5 o'clock every single day, Monday through Friday.
You have something
days
to
a
look
week.
forward to.
1 minute. You
Every
spend a
day.
minute with Colin every single week.
More than you need,
All right, help
but
wanted.
never enough.
Couple ones that I wanted to mention. So the job board is picking up pretty fast because lots of people are hiring and lots of people are posting their skills. So there's a Makerspace Steam instructor. That's Mac Inspires Makerspace. That's in New York at a paid job designing design fork of Adafruit's 16 by 2 RGB I2C shield into a 20 by 4 mega shield. So if this is something that you're good at, it's contract work, you can check it out.
Go for it.
All right.
It's open source.
Python on hardware news.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to do this one a little different this week. This week, I picked a story out of the newsletter
There's so
and
much.
the video. There's a lot that I think that's interesting. So, this is a new board. They called it a SBC small block computer, but it's actually just a microcontroller
Yes,
board.
yes.
And why don't you talk about why this is interesting? I'm just going to do one sentence about why it's interesting, but you
go first,
you
go
have more.
first, go first.
So here's why this board's interesting.
Why is it-
It's the next chapter on how electronic manufacturers are the trend that we see are sending out dev boards, and that is it comes with a scripting language, and the scripting language happens to be Python.
Yeah.
So tell us about this. What is this?
Well, I think it's interesting because I buy a lot of eval boards. Like I have many eval boards, and I use them for INMPI. And there's one thing that's kind of universal about eval boards. They're always kind of expensive.
They're this big, they're expensive, and they require a giant tool chain that's a mess.
Well, no, they actually don't even require a tool chain. Usually you're stuck with some Windows software. Usually it's only one platform, Windows software. Sometimes, some are now doing multi-platform. But if you have a Mac or Linux, usually you're out of luck. And it's kind of a little clunky, and it feels a little bad for the companies because it feels like every eval board they have to sort of start from the beginning and like design this whole like user interface just to like talk to this chip. And what I thought was interesting about Trinamic is, we featured them and they make these really great stepper drivers. They want people to try out their stepper drivers. They are a stepper driver chip company, not a Windows GUI software company, right? Like, what are they good at? Stepper drivers. What are they probably not so good at? Windows software. And so if you wanted to have a way for developers to be able to quickly test out your stepper drivers or your like industrial control drivers, using something like a Pi board might be really useful because you can like give them scripts and you don't need an IDE and you don't need like a web tool or like a GUI tool. You just tell them, hey, drag and drop this thing, open up a REPL using a serial port, and you can
Plug your eval board in your computer, it'll show up as a USB drive.
Yeah.
That's number one. Like, oh my gosh. And then using any text editor or IDE, edit the Python file.
And the thing is that this is not that different than what we realized with AdaBox and with doing our electronics. It's like there was a limit. Like we actually couldn't get people going with Arduino. Like it was just too limiting because it was like you have to install Arduino, and some people are like, I'm on a Chromebook, and I'm like, okay. Or they're like, I don't have a Min-X, I can't install software. Okay. Or like they're at a library, right? It's like, so how can you? Or they're on a parent's computer. The parents don't want them to.
They can't download software, but they can edit a text file, or they have an IDE that they're already allowed to use.
Right.
So how could they edit a script?
So the things that make it easy for students, it's funny because it's like I always tell the joke of like, well, we make it really easy for like students and kids to use CircuitPython, which means it's also possible for PhDs to use it, right? Because it's actually like kind of the same user base in a sense, the same stuff that a very advanced engineer and a beginner, it's actually the same user experience they want. Like, I actually don't want to install a tool chain. Like, when I was like in that medium stage, I was like, yeah, I'm going to install a tool chain. I'm going to explore this thing. Now it actually like gives me the willies, right? I don't want to get MSP 430 like to take over my computer. I just want to like have a thing do a thing. I just want to test it out to see how it works and get a feel for it, because then I'm going to integrate it into my own product. So I think MicroPython is a good use case for this. This is actually like basically a respin of the Pi board.
They call it Motion Pi, and even in the name, they're like, "Hey, Python."
Pi.
So this is happening.
It's an STM32F405, so you'll work with CircuitPython too, and it's basically just kind of like they took the Pi board and they just sort of added all this other stuff to it to make it good for industrial automation, and it's probably just running MicroPython like plain. Because the pins are the same thing, and then it's just got like the buttons and SD cards. It's split apart and designed just for automation. I think it's interesting. It's interesting because this is actually the one use case it's very good for. I always thought like eval boards were such a waste of resources for a company that does not. They're not an eval board company. They're a stepper driver company. They should not be making eval board software. They should be making stepper drivers.
There's more people that can do Python code too than embedded. Let's see. There's a bigger community audience and talent pool as well. So anyways, this is interesting to us. This is like you'll look back at this in years and be like, oh yeah, I saw this on like Ask
And then
an
it's
Engineer.
like the software's on GitHub. Right, it's very
Yeah.
interesting to me because Trinamic, they just got bought by Maxim, but they're not a big company, right? This isn't TI. So it's interesting to see like these small scale companies, are they like Digi, like Trinamic, they're going to start doing MicroPython and embedded Python scripting languages. And then seeing how, because they're more agile than the bigger companies, will it trickle up until eventually you're going to see, big companies use Python on hardware as a way of doing rapid development for their chips.
All right.
Interesting.
Other things in the newsletter, because that is in there, is 6.2.0
2.4 beta,
for beta. Please try it out. Go to Adafruit.
We are
Go to circuitpython.org/downloads.
fixing bugs like
Yeah.
bananas. We love
So,
fixing bugs.
RP2040 fixes are the big ones.
ESP32S2 fixes
yeah.
as well. A lot of USB stuff. Keep putting in any bug reports. We are patching and preparing, and we're going to move on to 7.
Yeah. If you got a
CircuitPython.
Open Hardware Summit goodie bag last year,
Yeah.
they shipped last week or so, and you can run CircuitPython. Now, here's the interesting thing. It's been a year, and
It still runs.
there's been a lot of CircuitPython updates since then,
Yeah.
so you get the latest firmware,
Yeah, even more
and
stuff.
your device does even more. So this is a little CircuitPython powered badge that also functions as a watch. I think Scott had these on his deep dive. He did
Yeah.
an unboxing. Here you can see the front and back. Works with
So it's
CircuitPython.
updated to the latest circuit. I mean, I think 4 was
Yeah.
out then. Now it's up to 6. Cool.
And also, there's a unboxing. Alex was on our show and tell. You can also check out the Open Hardware Summit swag bag unboxing that has everything else. Deep dive with Scott this Thursday. We mentioned that before. News from around the web. This was a roundtable from DigiKey for Pi Day.
Pi
You
Day.
can see a bunch of folks, including JP. This is a contentful blog e-ink display with CircuitPython and IoT. This is a circuit. So I tried to make Pi Pico and CircuitPython to measure soil moisture. This is a Raspberry Pi mouse jiggler. Sensor.
Sound
when you
sensor
ring bell.
stuff.
We have
More
other
Python.
Pico projects that are coming in.
MicroPython, thermal cameras, thermal printers, displays.
Yeah.
More people doing CircuitPython with RP2040s, which is cool.
Yep.
Pi Ladies has some good stories on their blog. That's the Pi Quarter. We had that on the show and tell. This is cool. This is a Chrome REPL, so more people are doing web serial, thankfully. Web USB, long live it, but web serial is better. People playing with Picos and off-the-shelf hardware. Space. This is cool. This is like a plant-shaped or like an egg-shaped sensor. People love eggs and sensors. Those kind of go together.
Yeah, and if you want to check out Tim,
He's doing
from you guys,
streaming.
you could check out the bitmap tools and the neat little dial widget gadget thing that he's working on. And then check out the rest. We have a review that I think this Russian site did of the Adafruit Feather RP2040.
Cool.
Tom's Hardware also did a review of it.
Oh, that's a nice Pi base. That's
Yep, here is a very small version of a schedule library for CircuitPython. You can use the Pi Pico to make an affordable Stream Deck. This is a 3D printed one. Here's an ESP32 OLED display with MicroPython, and more
Massive.
Keybows with CircuitPython, Keybos with CircuitPython, Zibos with CircuitPython. We have a guide on how to do Wi-Fi with the Pico, and then Tom's Hardware also has an article guide on how to do it. So uses CircuitPython, uses Wi-Fi, uses our Adafruit Airlift, and you can then get your Pi online. I had sent this to the team. Audacity 3.0 is released.
Oh, yay. It's our favorite
We
open
use this
source
for
audio tool.
So we use this for all of the audio file edits and more.
Yeah.
One of the cool things about CircuitPython and Python on hardware is you can play WAV files. Yeah,
That's right.
you can also play other types of files.
But you often want to put them in the right format to speed things up.
Yeah.
There's that
And we talked about
motion
that.
high.
We have some coming soons. We're going to be talking about it on the show tonight. We have some new Learn guides, and we are up to 306 CircuitPython libraries. Good work
That's
there.
right.
Check out the new boards and which ones are most popular on circuitpython.org/downloads. And then we have some events coming up. PyCon USA is coming up, EuroPython, PyOhio, And then, of
Still
course,
virtual, and then maybe throughout the summer we'll see some in-person events
Yep.
popping up.
And that is Python on Hardware News this week.
Thank you, Blinka. Okay, next up.
Okay, we're an open source hardware company. We have 2,440 guides. Lady Ada was on the big board this week.
Okay, actually, the top 4 guides are the only new guides we've got this week. So we've got the Adafruit MIDI Feather Wing. So this is it's an older product that we forgot to make the guide live, but now it is. So you can add DIN 5 or 3.5 millimeter MIDI jacks to your Feather. It's got just over the UART. It does the level shifting and opto and isolating for you. TouchDeck is a cool project. Tim C. Foamy Guy worked with JP to make a DIY customizable, like a Stream Deck clone, but it uses a RP2040 Feather plugged into the back of a 3.5 inch Feather Wing. It's the RP2040 is nice and fast, and the 3.5 inch display is nice and big, so it makes for a great project. We've also got the guide for our BLM badge education and workshop kit for folks who will be getting these. We're going to be donating these to some groups. They're going to be doing workshops. You can follow this guide to get your workshop up and running. It runs CircuitPython, and we're also going to add MakeCode support soon, working with MakeCode folks. Finally, we've got a fun guide from Dylan. We did almost a year ago now, we did a coronavirus stats updater using the e-ink mag tag.
Yeah.
We did that over the winter. And actually, the COVID tracking project shut down earlier this month, which is good. They're like, hey, the government is taking over this project. We don't have to collate the data. It's going to be collated for you by your government. Yay, America. But instead, now we have a vaccine tracker. So would you like to know the percentage of people in America that are vaccinated every day? Your mag tag will wake up, update it, and go back to sleep. You can also customize it for just your state or your country.
All right. In Adafruit Learning System news, if you go to learn.adafruit.com, at the top you'll see our little logo with a mask on it. We're going to keep it on there just for now. Explore and learn, new guides, and then dice.
What are those dice?
So the dice are a way to get a random guide. So I'm going to go to the Learn System here.
Okay.
And when you
Press
press this, it goes to a random guide.
Random guide. Ooh.
So-
Robotic turkey.
Yeah, let me see if I can. Oop, I didn't change anything.
Okay.
Let me move this around here.
Yeah, but then you get now you're
Then I
mobile.
get rid of the dice.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this is a way for once you have 2,000 something guides, you may just want to hit the random button and decide what you want to make,
You get inspired.
or maybe something that you didn't even know you wanted to make, or who knows.
Some good projects. Things that you may not have known that we have
Yeah.
in the learning system.
So
Stuff you can learn.
that is news about the learning system. We're always adding new features, always making it easier to use, always making it better for more people to be able to learn. It's a free resource, and it's supported by your orders, so please place an order once in a while. Okay, main New York City factory footage. Here's some footage from the factory. This is
Make it a tester.
making a tester. A lot of our factory footage that we do is testers, because we do a test.
We test everything, so there's a
Everything.
lot of stuff to test. This is how that gets made, and then we like to make them use a Arduino Uno shaped PCB. And what's nice about that is
It's
then
like a shield.
we can quickly make new testers. And this is Isaac speed rounding RP2040 testing. So it only takes us 2 seconds to test each one.
Yeah.
So that's why he's going so fast.
Yeah, we have a video that we're going to show in a bit about that as well.
This is our special tester, which uses the mass storage capabilities of a Teensy to actually use, like, it shows up as a disk drive, it drags the file onto the disk drive, and then makes a little rainbow swirl. Well, this is us testing this week's new product, the NeoKey. And then next week's new product, the NeoKey 2.
Here you can see the auto stenciler works. It places the holding pins in a specific spot, so when it presses down,
Yeah, things stay
stencil can
nice and
stencil.
flat. Okay,
and here it is,
getting ready.
squishing.
Squishing like a pro. Nice bead. Nice squish. Okay, got a back squish.
Yeah.
Squish both directions.
And for the folks, for the person who asked, they want to see a video of how we make testers. We actually talk about this a lot. There's a bunch of videos.
We have a guide.
Yeah, we even have a guide.
Search
too.
for it
So
how to-
check it out. We also talk about this at Descoladiata, and I think we also did with the DigiKey video series, Make It or Market. All right, and it wouldn't be made in New York City factory footage without the Disney building across the street that's still going. So here's a time lapse of all the construction going on across the street.
Oh, they're starting to fill in. Interesting, they took away the ramp. I wonder how they. I guess they have to just build every floor now, and then maybe they lift the. Maybe they lift it out with another crane. I don't know how they do
They
that.
bury them.
You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, 3D printing, Noam Pedro, 3D printing up. Some amazing things. This week we're going to show two videos. One is a 3D printing thing in speed up, and the other one is an RP 2040 Feather video takeaway. Noam Pedro, I'll play these back to back and see you on the other side.
This is the Feather RP2040 featuring the new chip from Raspberry Pi. This has all of the goodies you know and love about the Feather format. It's got 8 MB of flash, USB-C, built-in LiPo charging, and Stemma QT. With onboard Stemma, you can plug and play all sorts of I2C sensors. So you don't need any headers, you can simply just plug in some cables. This makes projects easier, and there's tons of Stemma QT breakouts from Adafruit. With CircuitPython, you can quickly get your projects up and running. To install CircuitPython, plug in a good USB cable into your computer. Hold down the boot select button and then plug in USB. Head over to circuitpython.org and search for the Feather RP2040. Select your preferred language and click the download button. Then just drag and drop the UF2 file onto the USB drive. The board will flash the new firmware and automatically reboot the drive. Be sure to check out the Learn Guide for demo code and project examples.
All right, don't forget every Wednesday, 3D Hangouts, you can learn how to make all the stuff from Noam and Pedro. Everyone's favorite segment, DigiKey and Adafruit present
on MPI.
this week's Eye on MPI is from
Molex.
Molex.
Okay, we're doing another Molex one. We did Molex custom cables a bit ago.
That's right.
But I saw these pop up on digikey.com/new, and I was like, that's a good idea. These are the Molex One Touch FPC connectors. So these are connectors for flex cables. We have flex cables in a lot of use cases. I'll show you a couple in a bit. And these are the two connectors. They've got ones that are right angle, and they've got ones that are vertical. And you notice it has that little push bar. It kind of looks like the an exit push bar from a door, and that does exactly what you think. It's a way for you to connect and disconnect the flex cable from the connector by pressing down to release it. So flex cables, we see. I mean, they're used in a lot of things. They're used in almost all electronics these days. They're inexpensive. It's an easy way to have multiple contacts on a PCB. You don't have to do a lot of crimping, if any, and you basically can fit a lot of connectors into a flex cable because you can use 0.5 millimeter pitch which is not too hard to solder, and your PCBs, your flex PCBs, are the precision is going to be good enough that you can cram that many connectors in. There's also 0.3 millimeter, although we tend to use 0.5. These connectors are also 0.5. So, for example, here's a TFT, and there's a flex cable, so that means it, they can bend quite easily. And on the end, you see 1 through 50 connector points on the FPC. And then you would plug it into an FPC connector. So this is like a Molex connector that we have that's a kind of like a pull, push, like an ears style, I call them, connector, slide out, or whatever the technical name is for these. And basically you see the contacts on the end, because you can't solder a flex PCB directly to a circuit board without it causing strain and having it rip apart. What you do is you slide it into the connector actually gets soldered into the PCB. So this is what the connector looks like when not in use. So you see the little brown part, that slides out, and there's 2 little ears on the side that you pull carefully out. And then you can insert the flex PCB in, as shown here on a PCB. You see the ears are sticking out. And then you push it in all the way, and then you insert the flex connector and you push in the little ears, and you're good to go. So let's go to the overhead and I'll show what that looks like in person. So here I've got like a nice cool square TFT display, and this is a little breakout board that I've got that has that same FPC connector. Like I said, it's a slide out style, and you see there's these little ears. I pull on them, and then I can remove the FPC. You can see the FPC contacts here, and then there's top contact and bottom contact. And then again, if I want to insert it, it's the wrong contact way. I'm just showing it for demonstration. And then you have to squeeze this ear and you have to squeeze that ear. So, these pretty much work, and we use them a lot. But there are some things you have to watch out for with these connectors, which is that they're extremely hard to rework, and they are a mechanical part that if you have people doing repair or maintenance on something with a flex connector, they can break, and when they break, it's kind of like catastrophic. So, you can see here on the left, I don't know if you can zoom in onto the connector, but, basically, if that little piece that moves gets cracked or broken, and from heat it can get cracked or broken, it's unrepairable. And, you can get replacement parts, but you can't yeah, there you go. So you can see on the corner there, it got cracked a little bit. Either from heat or from mechanical strain, and you basically have to replace the whole connector. And there's a lot of little plastic bits that can break on these FPCs, and they're really hard to rework. Here's another one, and you can see the whole thing just broke off, right? So maybe it was somebody flipped it up and it was stuck a little bit. They didn't pull while flipping, whatever. Either way, it cracked off and broke. And so what's really neat about the Molex One Touches is they come in different sizes, and again, there's no mechanical pull or flip part. You push to release the part, and so there's one less thing that can go wrong. The reason I mention this is that if you have a design that has these flex connectors and you're either assembling them in an automated fashion, or you have people and they break 1 out of 100 of them, you have to rework a board, which can be quite a bit of work and might damage other components on the board, because it's a big part you have to heat and remove, and also takes time. And it might be better if you just upgrade to one of these one-touch connectors, because you don't have that mechanical strain problem. You don't have this part that can break off. You just push to remove the cable, and it also locks in place. So maybe let me grab one. I have.
Yeah, they're available on DigiKey. The number that I use to find, because there's a few different ones, is 245-50440.
That's the Molex.
Or you can go to digikey.com/short/RN8RW873.
Okay, so I found my connector. So let's go to the overhead again. So this time I'm going to, again, you have to carefully open up both ears. And you never know, sometimes I actually break, you can break these. You have to be very careful with them. Okay, so this side, and then this side. Okay, and then you can remove. So this is the one-touch connector. So you can zoom in a little bit. And so you can see the push. This is the push button here. Sorry. Yeah. This is the push button here. It's kind of hard to see the, there you go, the engraving on it. You've got the contacts and you've got the mechanical strain relief here to keep it in place. And then to plug it in, what's interesting is that you don't push to attach. You actually just press in. And it actually has kind of like a wide curved mouth thing, so you don't have to like be careful. Like, you know, it'll slide in and it'll align properly. And then, you know, it's nicely solid. And then if you want to release, you press. So you saw I was pressing it. And I guess you could also press if you want to insert, but you don't have to. So there you go. So it's inserted, press to release. So there you go. And they're good for 20 cycles. This is the vertical type, which I thought was kind of neat, but they also have the right angle type. So less chance of you or the person doing the maintenance cracking off that piece. So I think for that purpose alone, and if you have a product that has this issue doing maintenance or rework or installation, you know, right? Because this is like part of your, rework or yield issues. Check out these connectors. So they have them in, 10, 20, 30, 35, 40, and maybe I think 50 pin, maybe not 50, up to 40 pin connectors, vertical, horizontal. And they use like pretty much the same footprint as existing Molex FPCs. I mean, check the data sheet, to make sure that you've got the exact right position for the mechanical pads. But chances are, if you have a design that already uses FPC connectors, you could probably swap these in without doing a huge board revision, right? You might have to just tweak a couple pads, but you're probably not going to have to move around a lot of parts. So very interesting connector. I think it's an interesting innovation because I've used pull out and flip top. I've never seen push to remove or push to insert type.
And we have video.
That's right. Molex made a nice video.
The Easy On One Touch FFC FPC connectors by Molex. These connectors feature single-step mating with an auto lock nail mechanism, a high retention force, and an easy-to-use push button for unmating. Offering a quick and reliable connection, as well as easy operation, makes the Easy On One Touch FFC FPC connectors ideal for a host of industries and applications, from smart appliances to various consumer and industrial uses. The Easy On 0.5mm pitch one-touch connector enables quick and easy FFC FPC cable insertion and mating operation via manual or automatic assembly. The large lead-in helps avoid misalignment, while the inside locking mechanism ensures superior retention. Push button to easily unlock the cable. Other features include its high operating temperature, optional ground terminal, and right angle and vertical variations. More information at molex.com.
All right, that was Ion MPI.
Yes.
Okay, let's dive right into new products.
That's right. New.
So we have it coming soon.
Yes. Well, it's coming soon, really. So this is something that we worked on like a year ago, and we kind of got delayed and distracted. And
You can tell
the world
when we
happened.
took this photo because Bitcoin was
10K.
10,000 USD at the time.
But we actually are back on the IMX train. We took a little bit of a detour to do some other things, including keeping our company running during 2020. But we're finally able to get back to some delayed projects, including this one. So it's our first Cortex M7 board. It's going to be the IMX RT1011, which is a 500 megahertz Cortex M7 from NXP. It's got 128K of RAM. It's going to have a 4 megabyte QSPI flash chip. We have CircuitPython already working for this chip, and we're sort of going through a bug fixing stage. We're also going to give it a second stage bootloader. So we've been working on getting Teeny UF2 all ported over and working quite well for the IMX series. This will be the first board of many IMX series chip breakouts and feathers and metros and pi portals and whatnot. We thought this chip was cool because it's a hand solderable 500 megahertz processor. It's just kind of neat. And it is very fast with CircuitPython. It doesn't have a ton of RAM, but it does have enough to be able to do Wi-Fi projects and control a display and get sensor data. So will be our fastest megahertz Metro so far.
Yep.
Very exciting.
Next up.
Okay, we've got some more Raspberry Pi compute modules. This one, I mean, every day we're kind of getting more modules in. Let me verify the 2 stats for these. So these are...
I'm going to show both.
Yeah, because one has flash. This one does not have flash memory. So the one without flash memory is the 2 gigabytes of RAM, but it does have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So this is the light version. So you'll need an external SD card with the compute module. But if you do that, you've got 2 gigabytes of RAM, you've got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on board. And this one, you can see the flash chip kind of in the top center there. It's got 8 gigabytes of MMC flash memory, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and of course Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So this is, if you grab our compute module I/O board, plug this in, and again, if you don't have the MMC memory, you're gonna have to plug in an SD card. If you do have the MMC, what's nice is it's got this super fast, high-speed, large memory chip right on board. So a lot of people prefer that to having an SD card.
Okay, next up, we have a lot of cables.
We have a lot of cables. It's a cable series. These are 1.25 millimeter pitch cables. They're compatible with Molex Pico Blade. They're sometimes called like Pico Blades, but they're not necessarily Molex. They are just 1.25 millimeter pitch cables. They are 1 to N, and I can show on the overhead what that means because there's two kinds of cables. So let's go to the overhead and I'll show. So all the cables are pretty much this. They're just different number of pins. So let me just make sure that we lock onto the focus. So you'll see that they have, the contacts, they're crimped in and all that good stuff. So for this cable, this one is 1 to 1. Made a mistake. So you can see that the colors may not be the exact same one as your cable, but for this one, it is. This one, pin 1 is the black wire, and this one is pin 1 is also the black wire. So just make sure that when you have your boards that are connecting back and forth, sometimes like the black wire on one is on one here and is on the nth pin over here. So just like keep that in mind when you're designing it. We've seen some cables they're called 1 to 1 and some are 1 to N. So this one, it's the same on both sides, but that's not always true. I just want to warn people because we might also carry the cables that have it the other way around. That said, we have them in multiple different pins. We have 7 pin, 8 pin, 9 pin, 10 pin, basically 4 through 10. They're pre-assembled cables. They're really nice. They're 20 centimeters long. So if you're you want to connect data and power from one board to the other, you don't want to use a flex cable. You want a fine pitch or a fairly fine pitch cable. We do like Pico Blades. We use them a lot. They're very compact. You get a lot of pins without a big connector, so they're not very bulky.
All right. Next up.
Next up, we have STEMMA QT-ified the HTU 21D breakout. This is a humidity and temperature sensor from TE. We like it. It's a nice sensor. It's got a PTFE filter, also quite nice. We've had this one for quite a bit, and it's a popular sensor. So we decided we would STEMMA QT-ify it. It now comes with plug-and-play STEMMA QT connectors on the side. We're trying to get all of our boards into the same form factor, same pin order, same connector, to make it easier for people to do no soldering sensor connectivity. So the HU21D has gotten the QT glow up, as we like to say.
All right, next up.
Okay, now we're on to new products from the fabrication department. So we've got this board. Let me grab the demo. So these are mechanical key breakouts. So I'm kind of getting interested in mechanical key parts. And to use them, the mechanical keys themselves, they're often called like Cherry MX or Cherry MX compatibles. And they normally you need to solder them into like a keyboard, and then you clicky and clacky them. This breakout lets you plug in a Cherry MX compatible switch, like you see here. This is a Kale box switch, which is Cherry MX compatible, You plug it in to the breakout board, and there's on the bottom, you can see on this photo, there's a socket. And so the switch doesn't get soldered in, it actually kind of press fit plugs in. It can be removed, so if you want it to be more permanent, use glue or something, or some epoxy to keep it in place. There is also on the bottom, you see that white square thing that's a neopixel, and there's also a diode. And the diode is what lets you create key matrices with this thing. And the neopixel, you see here, there's this kind of like, there's the two sockets on the left, the center is the mounting post. And on the right, there's actually a little slot in the keys. And the key itself is meant for like having an LED soldered in perhaps. But you can also just have a reverse mount neopixel shine through, and then you can kind of backlit the LED with RGB colors. One thing to just be aware of, it's not in the center, it's the bottom half of the key or the top half. It's one half of the key that gets RGB lit. Here I've got some translucent keys, so you can sort of see that it's not the full body of the key. It's not like, whole thing glowing, it's just one half of it. So let's go to the overhead and I'll show you the demo because it's actually easier to show. So here we've got a QT board. It's just using Arduino, or you can use CircuitPython, whatever. And these are the keys. And I'm just going to remove them to show you that the key itself plugs into the socket. So this is the key. And it's got these two connectors, and when this key is pressed, those connect together. And then there's the mounting post, right, to keep it mechanically stable, so you can plug it in, and then, it's pretty stable. I would say, look, you want to have it glued or taped or something to keep it from coming apart, because you can pull it off. And here's another one. So you have two of them connected together. And then on each side, you have multiple pinouts. There's power and ground here. These are for the neopixel. And then this white wire you see, goes in here and then chains over to this one. That's the neopixel data line. So just like neopixels, you chain them together. This has neopixel data going through. And then you have two pins for the switch, the top and the bottom, the anode and the cathode of the switch. Again, there's this diode in the middle, so you can make key matrices. If you're not doing key matrices, you can just ignore that diode. It's there to avoid key ghosting if you're making a complicated matrix. But basically, you have one pin for every switch. And then for this demo, I will reassemble it very quickly. When you press the key, the LED turns off. So, you can just use it as a switch and then control the neopixel separately. So the neopixel is not connected to the switch at all. They're totally separate. You can have the neopixel on all the time, off all the time. You don't even have to power it if you don't want to. It's just kind of a bonus extra. It shines underneath. Here's a demo of the opposite. When you press the button, the neopixel shines through. So it's just basically a breadboard-friendly way of connecting a mechanical key that is Cherry MX compatible to your breadboard. And we'll do more stuff with these keys, but I wanted to just get started and have an easy way to make breadboard-friendly mechanical key switch projects.
Okay, and star of the show tonight, besides you, Lady, our customers, our community, and our team, is
Neo Trinky, your best friend, who's NeoPixels, and it's a trinket, and it's a USB key. It's Neo Trinky. I don't know. It's from Bandai. No, it's not. It's from Adafruit. It's a USB key, and as you might expect, it's got the USB connectors here, so you plug into USB. It's got a SAMD21, it's our favorite little microcontroller chip, so it can run CircuitPython. In fact, this demo is CircuitPython. It's got a regulator just to get you that 3 volts you need. It doesn't need a lot of components. There's a reset button, and then there's 4 neopixels and 2 capacitive touchpads. So, these contacts here at the end of the body, if we zoom in, you can see that there's a split in the middle, left and right. So when I plug this into USB, so I get a little USB extender, when I press one, it gets bright, and when I press the other, wait, hold on. Sorry, this one gets dim, and this one gets bright. So I can dim them, brighten them. So they act as 2 separate inputs, the capacitive inputs. You can control the neopixel separately, so I just have them doing this kind of a rainbow glow thing. And then, of course, you can get into a bootloader, or you can load Arduino code, you can use CircuitPython. It's very small and simple. We just wanted to make like a keychain CircuitPython board. It has a little slot here that you can put onto a keychain ring if you'd like. And then you just plug it in and you can immediately start coding. And again, you don't need an IDE or anything. You can just go straight into CircuitPython and write code for it. So it's very cute. And it's got an extra thick PCB, so it plugs into USB quite nicely. So Trinky, Neo Trinky. Why not?
Some products.
Neo Trinky. Neo Trinky.
Okay, let's. I have some questions lined up. We'll get to those in a bit, and folks will probably have some new questions. Let's do some top secret.
Okay. Get into the vault. No, get out of the vault.
Yeah.
You want to show some little videos?
Yeah, I have one little video, and then we have some still images. Some of these we just released the products. They're not exactly top secret, but kind of it was
Well,
work in progress at the time.
Whatever.
So here is
Behind the scenes.
Here is us testing our Feather 2040s with the Teensy. Okay, Lamar, what is this?
This is my RP2040 tester for the RP2040 Feather. We finished this up, and I want to show how the testing procedure works. I use a Teensy and the USB host, and this is really cool. I actually load the UF2 over mass storage onto here. This is my test jig, so I test all the pin connections. We just milled this on our other mill. If I crank it down here and then press this button, it loads the UF2 file, does a serial test, and it finishes testing in 2.5 seconds, which is awesome. Over here we've got the EagleCAD file for the testing jig. You can see I test alternate pins that are not next to each other. And then this is the Pico SDK code that I load onto the Feather to do the GPIO test. This is in raw C, so it's really, really fast. So 2.5 seconds is awesome. Yes. Go test.
One weird thing. So I put this up on YouTube as well, and because I guess Gmail does this feature, and then also YouTube does this now. When you're logged in and it's your account for YouTube, it looks at the comments and it has suggestions on what to automatically reply with.
Yeah.
And some folks had said, "Hey, I want to see the code," and all of the things already filled. If I click one button, it says, "Look in the description. Look in the description. Look in the
way.
description."
That's so
yeah,
funny.
because I guess it analyzes
That's such
enough.
a common thing.
And
yeah.
then so it had, "No, I don't know. Look in the description." So anyways, if you want the code for that, it's in the description of the YouTube video, or you can look on the blog post for that. Okay, other things we have. Cutie Pie that we were...
Oh, the Cutie Pie RP2040. So
on.
I actually finished these up and just doing some testing and making sure everything was working. But these are ordered. Very exciting. TCA 4307. This is an older breakout, but we're going to finish that up real soon. And it's a cool I2C bus buffer. It's a DVI breakout. It's not HDMI. It's DVI. I was going to use this with the RP2040 stuff to get DVI video out to displays that have DVI in. And sadly, the STM-PE811 is no longer being manufactured, but we're looking at other SPI or I2C resistive touch controllers. Check out our great search from a couple weeks ago. I think this is the SC2407. I don't know. I don't remember the part number. And then more experiments in NeoPixel keys. So what if we took 4 of those like Neo keys, put them side by side, and then we have like a seesaw to connect them to I2C so we can make like I2C plug and play stuff. I don't know. Cool. And then Rotary Trinky. Next door neighbor to Neo Trinky. They're best friends. They used to play together as kids. And now Rotary Trinky is coming to life. Get back in the vault. That's in the vault.
Okay.
Okay.
So we will do questions now. Put them up on Discord. I'll put a little bit of a reminder where we're at Discord, adafruit.it/Discord.
Yeah.
We get to those. Those are the easiest ones for us to find and see. And I have some lined up. Let's go. You ready?
Sure.
We can speed
Let's
around
speed around
these.
them, yeah.
Yeah, it's getting a little
So
late, but it's okay. Okay, I was soldering. I don't have a nice fan. I opened a window, used a mask. Is that smart? Use a mask for soldering, limiting what you inhale. How big is a virus versus a solder flux fume?
Yeah, I mean, like it's basically whether you have a lot of flux or fumes. There's the fume suckers and with the filters. Opening a window, you can wear a mask. If people have masks, why not wear it? Because that'll filter out the fumes as well.
Yeah, the with the particle, the P2 or like whatever that particle is, I found that works pretty well for any type of airborne.
Yeah, particular. I mean, like it'll all filter it out. So yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You've got extra masks. Use them while soldering.
And if you can open a window, always do that. Okay, is there a shield or something, an example to control a water motor of a half horsepower motor? It's a big water motor for recirculating water for a small pool. It's part of aquaponics small lab I want to build for learning.
I would use like a relay at that point.
Yeah, the
something
relay,
like that.
the relay switch.
Yeah, because you're just turning it on or off. It doesn't have to go to the direction. You don't want a motor controller. You should a relay.
It's not a power switch tail because those are the back in the day. It's what are
You
they?
could use a power switch tail if you want. I mean, if it plugs, if this half
Yeah.
horsepower is
Isn't there
power
another
for
one?
1 volt.
that does that?
Whatever we have now, it's like the
Yeah.
equivalent.
Okay.
But you want a relay.
Yeah. And the power switch tail basically is a relay inside.
It's just a big
of
relay, yeah.
Thing. Okay. I'm using a Feather M0 LoRa along an STM nuclear board. There are 2 GPIO connections between the boards and a serial signal. The nuclear board powers the Feather from its 5-volt input, but I have found that if I plug in a USB cable to the Feather to program and forget that I have nuclear power, the Feather tries to power the nuclear via GPIO. This burns out the GPIO and the Feather. Any suggested way to prevent this? One person said data-only cable and then some resistors in series.
Yeah, resistors in series. I just put like a 10K in between. That way you're not. I don't think you're necessarily going to burn out a pin, but yeah, you're going to definitely be back powering it. It's not going to be happy.
Okay. The toggle switch capacitive touch center breakout, it appears you brought the connection for the touchpad to the surface. Is that okay expanding to the reed switch or other light components? Would it still toggle?
Well, I don't know what a capacitive touch would do with a reed switch. A reed switch is totally different. I mean, I guess if you had a reed switch, you just use a reed switch. It's a switch on its own. That has a connectivity thing rather than this, which has a signal output. So I don't actually know what you're asking to do. So maybe post in the forums.
Okay. Next up, can I use an itsy bitsy M4 NRF52 on a Feather Teensy 3.x adapter? Will I2C and SPI be where I
No,
expect?
they're totally different. The Feather Teensy adapters for the Teensy.
Okay, I can get the next one. How much of the tariffs hikes for components from China affected your business? Any impact at all? So, the tariffs are from the U.S. on imported goods, not from China. It's from
Well, the parts come from China.
yeah. The parts come from
It's
China.
on import.
On import, the U.S. charges.
Yes.
So it's I always want to be clear. It's not like we're paying money and then it goes to China. We pay money, it goes to the U.S.
Yeah, I don't think they're asking that. I think
No, I know.
Yeah.
No, I know. Look, a lot of people don't even know what tariffs are.
All right, fine.
Hey, every opportunity to just start from
keep going.
an agreed basic thing.
Yeah.
So, does it affect us? Yeah. It makes the prices a little bit higher, so we try to buy more so we can get better volume.
Yeah.
There were some refunds possible, so we applied for some of those, but basically everything's more expensive, and we're trying to keep prices as low as possible for everyone. We're still very competitive, but absolutely it made prices go up for us.
Yeah.
So it means lower margins for some things. It also means some parts got more expensive for us. And then for some things, and I'm sure this is going to come up soon, we might just have to not make certain things if it's too expensive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it did affect things. Okay, next up. NeoKey plus rotary encoder? I guess that's a...
Sure.
Okay. Any recommendations for sourcing bulk SK6812 minis?
I think DigiKey probably stocks NeoPixels by the reel.
Okay.
Let's check them.
Just curious if you consider stocking the inexpensive ASK PT2260 433 megahertz boards popular on places like eBay. Just thought it might be a product to stock and replay them off a ESP 8266 or ESP32 for controlling things in the home.
Yeah, 433 is actually technically not, I think, supposed to be used in the US. So we have 900 megahertz ones or 315. I don't remember which one. But we do have little PT2260 controllers in the store. They're called just like simple RF controllers.
Okay. Is it I2C or I2C or just preference?
Doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters.
There's no official.
And you know what? In our community, you can do both or either, and no one's going to come down on you. One of the things I don't like is when folks start to say what way is the right way to say something.
Yeah,
in this text only world where we're just reading things, I don't think it matters. And I think
there's no official way to say it.
There isn't. And just hang out with people who are just like, yeah, I get what you're saying. Next up, how much has your FR4 costs? So that's freight, maybe. Gone up for PCB since Chinese New Year and COVID?
Not much. Maybe a couple percent.
Yeah. Okay. Question: how's the MagTech family doing? Been unstuck for a while. Would like to see another permutation in the
Very
future.
hard to get
Love the
displays
MagTech.
right now.
Yep. Okay, and I think
That's it.
that. What is adding the RP2040 to the QT Py best use for?
Do you want something small that has a lot of RAM? Good for CircuitPython.
Okay.
A lot of RAM in that their chip.
And what is the fastest rate a NeoPixel can respond to data lines? I'm trying to flash a string of 32 NeoPixels
It's
at 14.
they're all
hertz.
written at the same rate, so there's no. You can't write to them faster than the 800 kilohertz rate.
Yeah, folks have lots of important questions that you should hang out in the chat. Pineapple on pizza, tomato or tomato on pizza, breakfast cereal, is it soup? These are all important questions
These
that
are-
will only be decided online. Arguing about it.
And not my problem.
Yeah. But like I said, the goal is to find a group of people where, GIF and GIF are okay.
That's fine.
That's the whole point. There really isn't any right or wrong anymore. It's who you can get along with and what can you build together and share.
Correct.
That's the only way forward. That's
And
it.
You don't have to share pizza. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Those are our questions for the week. Thank you, everybody. We're wrapping up the show. We'll see everybody next week, 8 p.m. Ask an Engineer.
That's right.
Special thanks to our community, our customers, all of our staff, Jesse
Got
May.
some live videos this week.
Behind the scenes in our Adafruit Slack. Thank you, Jesse May. We are shipping things safe and smart. Thank you, everyone, for supporting us all during these times and probably some times ahead because things aren't over yet.
It's not a movie, guys. There's
There's a lot of
there's
things
not
ahead.
necessarily a happy ending.
There's a lot of things ahead, but we'll get through it together and more. So we'll see you next week. Here is your moment of Zener.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.